Thank you. Martina, will you please call the roll to ensure that we have a quorum?
Certainly. Director McMillan.
Yes, here as the alternate.
Thank you. Director Kohler.
Here.
Director Rodoni.
Here.
Director Goins.
Here.
And Director Hilliard.
Here.
We have a quorum. We may proceed.
Thank you. We have a quorum. So item 3 is agenda adjustments. I'll entertain a request to adjust the order of the agenda. Are there any agenda adjustments?
Well, I was going to suggest moving the closed session to the end so the public doesn't have to hang around for the closed session before the biomass study, but it doesn't seem like we could do that since Bell's not here yet. So long way of saying no.
Okay, and hearing no agenda adjustments, we will then go to closed session. But before we do, I'll now take public comment on the 2 closed session items listed on the agenda. Is there any member of the public present or online that wishes to make a comment on the closed session?
If there are any members of the public who would like to speak on the closed session items only, please raise your hand in the reactions by pressing *9. I see no hands for comment at this time.
Thank you. So hearing no comments, we will now adjourn to closed session for a conference with labor negotiator Jean Bonander related to the executive officer and a discussion about the executive officer's performance evaluation. Could I ask everyone who is not on the board to please leave the room?
We'll stay here then, rather than going to the other room.
Welcome back to open session. We just concluded our closed session. There was no reportable action taken in closed session. So we're moving on now to item 5, open time for public expression. The public is welcome to address the executive committee at this time on matters not on the agenda that are within the jurisdiction of the committee. Please be advised that pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2, the committee is not permitted to discuss or take action on any matter not on the agenda. Comments may be no longer than 2 minutes and should be respectful to the community. Please silence your cell phones during the meeting and mute your microphone when not reporting out. Are there any members of the public present or online who would like to give public comment at this time?
And if there's anyone who would like to leave a comment who is joining us remotely, please press star 9 to raise your hand and star 6 to mute and unmute yourself. There are no comments at this time.
Thank you so much. All right, moving on. Item 6, Executive Officers Report. Executive Officer Mark Brown will present the Executive Officers Report. Take it away, Mark.
Good morning, everybody. Let me fire up the screen share. First of all, welcome to our 7th fiscal year. I'm speechless. I mean, it's weird to think that we're actually entering in our 7th year. It just seems like we started, but welcome to our 7th fiscal year. The fuels outlooks, like I like to talk about during the summer, fuel levels are tracking with historic norms. A little bit of a slow start to the fire season, which we, of course, like. We'll see how the rest of the fire season, at least that's in California, but I'm sure you guys have seen what's going on throughout the nation. And all of course, our condolences for the 3 firefighters who were killed in line of duty. Strategic planning update, I think you guys probably touched on it a little bit during closed session. However, we are moving forward with that. We're going to have, as a reminder, we'll have a quick session with the ops committee to finish up their strategic planning so they can pass along a package to you guys to consider for during your strategic planning. And then Gene will be scheduling, and Gene and Martina will be scheduling a couple dates with you guys for the board strategic planning. Wanted to mention that we were, Marin Wildfire wasn't specifically mentioned, but the success story of getting some people off the California Fair Plan and into Mercury Insurance was in an article in Fortune magazine, and I'll forward the article to the board. I think we have a copy of it that it was behind a paywall, but I think we have a copy that's outside of the paywall. So that's huge news. The Chronicle is still tracking that story, and they are interviewing the president for Mercury, Victor Joseph, right now, and then that article should be coming out. And that's where Marin Wildfire's partnership with Mercury and working alongside our Firewise communities to help get people off the FAIR plan will be highlighted in that article. And that will be used to launch the initiative across the entire county. Wanted to let you guys know that I've been invited to, or we just recorded a podcast with a group called Resources for the Future. It's a joint podcast with myself and Jason Brooks from Fireside, really highlighting the public-private partnership that we have with Fireside as a resource for that others can follow in the future. And then I'll be part of a panel discussion next week with Insurance for Good, talking about some of the things that we've done to help solve the insurance crisis. Other people on the panel discussion will be Amy Bach from United Policyholders, Nancy Watkins from Milliman in actuarial, Jen Godlin from Mercury Insurance, but she was also from Paradise, and she established a foundation in Paradise to help rebuild Paradise, and then Stephen Hawks from IBHS. So it should be an interesting panel discussion. And CWPP is all but done. But we had an opportunity to partner with the Justice League to have them get their eyes on the document to make sure that it is written in an inclusive way. And so they are taking a deep dive to align the language in the most inclusive way as possible. And we were able to secure a grant from the Resource Legacy Fund to help offset the costs for the work that they're doing on that. And with that, I'll stop the screen share and take any questions.
Director Kohler.
Yeah, I'm sure you're aware of this, but our mayor just did a call with the insurance commissioner's office, and they were talking to her about a number of insurance companies coming back to California. Are you following all? I'm sure you're following all.
Yeah, we are. It's, and we're encouraging the insurance industry to, the IBHS Wildfire Prepared Home is a great goal to get to. But for the built environment, it's a very difficult and potentially unachievable goal. So we've been encouraging a lot of insurers to follow Mercury's lead and use standards that aren't quite all the way up there, because otherwise people just aren't going to be able to do it.
And are you relaying that to the, I mean, I realize the insurance commissioner is going to change, but are you relaying that to the insurance commissioner's office? Because it'd be nice if it was kind of coming from them too.
Yeah, I've been in multiple conversations with their office on that same concept, and they agree. It's just persuading the insurance industry.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Director McMillan.
Thank you. Mark, the Insurance for Good panel, can outsiders watch that?
Yeah, I'll find out. They say they already have over 100 people signed up for it. I'll find the registration link and send it to the board.
I also have a question on resources for the future. Where will it be? Is it open or do you have to pay or what is that?
No, it's totally free, and we have some advertising that's going to go out through our social media channels here in the near future.
Great. Thank you so much. Other comments? Questions? Okay, I'll bring this back to the committee to, no, I guess no motion is required. So if I hear no other discussion, we'll move to the consent calendar. The opportunity for the public to comment on calendar items will occur prior to the committee's decision on the consent calendar. The committee may approve the entire consent calendar of one item this time or pull anything off. So now is the time for anyone to ask for a change to the consent calendar. Okay, hearing none. Do I do public comment on this? Okay, so is there any member of the public present or online who wishes to make a comment on the consent calendar?
I see no hands at this time.
Okay, now I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Moved by Director Goins,
I'll second.
second by Director Kohler. Can we take a voice vote or do we? Okay, so all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I'm abstaining.
Okay, abstentions? One. Okay, so the motion passes. Thank you. Now we're going to item 8, discussion items. And we're delighted today that we have the Marin biomass study presentation. Board member Bruce Goins and Ecologically Sound Practices member Bill Cole will present this item, and I look forward to it. Bruce.
And while they're setting up, if I could just say a couple quick
Sure.
things. We didn't put that in the script for you, but I was thinking about it. It's pretty amazing that Marin was asked to participate in the biomass study. This wasn't something that we asked for a grant to get done. What is happening in Marin, how much work we're getting done, and in partnership with our environmental community was recognized at the state. And they actually reached out to us and said, we would like to grant you this money for this project. And that's when this amazing team was put together and worked very, very hard for this amazing document. So just wanted to give that little preface because I doubt they would have tooted their own horn that way.
Thanks, Mark. Check the mic here. Let's see, I want to make sure all of you recall Bill Cole, who has been instrumental in supporting us going back about 6 years. I participated with Bill, but Bill led the environmentally sound practices working group, brought together all the environmentalists interested in this work and worked over a series of 2 years. And if I recall, Bill, 1 meeting a week for 2 years, about 100 meetings, but developed a
4 years.
Okay, more than that. And we developed a 28-page document, which is environmentally sound practices. It talks about principles and practices. They're environmentally responsible for vegetation management, greenhouse gas management, biomass management, and they were reviewed by our legal staff. They were adopted by the board as advisory, but they have, that's the keel that we've been riding on from an environmental perspective. And Bill was the esteemed leader of that group. I've been working with Bill for years. So thanks, Mark, for the introduction. And thanks for inviting Bill and me here. Also join us, I think, do we have Chad White? Chad White is joining us on Zoom. Hey, Chad. Chad is a spectacular project manager for us who has put together this 300-page report on biomass. So I guess quick background is that this project is a result of 5 full years of work, and our team met weekly. And there were additional meetings, so over close to 300 meetings actually that put this together. It was funded by, as Mark said, the governor's office, what was then the governor's office of planning and research. I had relationships with them professionally as the Forest Service, and they were kind enough to invite us to apply. It started out at $250, then up to $5, and they invested $750,000 to complete this study. We hired Chad White, and we then hired the best of the best consultants who understand biomass utilization to help us figure these things out. So what did we do? We examined all forms of biomass that are generated here in Marin. We determined where's it coming from, where does it go, what becomes of it, and then we examined whether we could manage our biomass in a different fashion. And by different, I mean, could we reduce our greenhouse gas emissions associated with our work? Could we reduce landfill diversions? We're building hills on the ocean or the bayside here. And could we also produce some useful end products? And the study concluded, yes, that we could manage our biomass differently, and we could reap multiple benefits. And so next slide. Oh. That's the cover slide. Let's move to the next one, please. That's a copy of the study. Back the one before, please. So today we're going to talk about the background of the study, the purpose of the study, what the findings were in this study, and then we're going to close with implications for Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority, how it may affect our operations and our greenhouse gas footprint. So at this point, Belle Cole is going to provide you with some little bit deeper background on what we did, why we're doing this. So Belle, please.
Yeah, there's a slide.
Next slide.
Ah, good.
There we go.
Okay. Oh, how do I get some light? Thank you. Okay. So, thank you for listening to us tell you something about this project. So the Marin Biomass Project, as you can see from the list of things that I have here, the first is that it was motivated by 2 climate-related realities: increasing risk of wildfires, catastrophic wildfires, and a recognition that processing and landfilling biomass can emit large amounts of greenhouse gases, including methane, a particularly potent driver of climate change. The project grew out of early discussions with Marin Can, which was Drawdown Marin, was the predecessor to Marin Can. And they selected as online key climate solutions needed to reach zero net greenhouse gas emissions in Marin work. Work began in earnest when the governor's office, it was the governor's OPR, but it's now the governor's office of land use and climate investments, selected the project for funding. As one of the pilots, the project was funded to overcome barriers to biomass feedstock utilization, and in so doing, facilitate wildfire safety initiatives. Marin Resource Conservation District, RCD, took on management of the grant and appointed a steering committee to guide development of a biomass utilization study. That's where we came into the picture. The study addresses increasing flows of organic materials generated by wildfire prevention activities and by landfill diversion efforts by the county required by Senate Bill 1383. These biomass flows include woody materials resulting from woodland vegetation management sources, separated green materials, and mixed organic streams arising from the collection of metropolitan landfill, landscape trimmings, and so forth. The study estimates the magnitude. I just want to say that we now have, the project grew out of these early discussions, and as a leader of the drawdown project, as I was back then, I was pleased to meet Bruce, and he was instrumental in helping us get our initial funding. And so we've been friends since then. And we argue too. As one of 5 pilots, the project was funded to overcome barriers to biomass feedstock utilization. There are two categories of biomass covered in this study. Biomass from forest and woodland landscapes and biomass from metropolitan landscapes. And the woody materials are those generated by wildfire mitigation activities, things that you know so well: forest fuel treatment, defensible space clearing, roadway and power line maintenance, building construction and demolition, and from landscape maintenance. And biomass from metropolitan landscape produce a variety of biomass flows that Bruce will cover shortly. For your information, over the last 40 years, California has implemented policies that discourage landfilling and encourage recycling. SB 1383 has a goal to divert 75% of biomass away from landfill. And green materials are defined as leaves, grass, yard prunings, fuel reduction residuals, as well as food scraps. No, and then there are food scraps in addition to that. So, and then I just want to mention one other thing in the background, which is that the ecologically sound practices that was mentioned by Bruce, published in 2022, includes, in addition to best practices for veg management and defensible space, it also includes best management for carbon resource management, which is lowering of greenhouse gas emissions. And so there's a whole set of guidelines on that subject, which, as a result of the biomass study, we probably will be revisiting. Okay.
Thanks, Bill. Great background. So there's a lot of things, a lot of issues and initiatives and connected efforts here that motivated this study. So here we go. Let's go to the next slide. I'm going to summarize. Let's just start. Bill already said this, but the first question is what is biomass? And Bill pretty much described it. But on the left column, this is the raw material: logs, wood chips, green materials, construction debris, food scraps. This is all the stuff that we generate. And on the right-hand side, corresponding, if you take a look at, go across, there are actually potential end products that are useful and beneficial, and in the end could be greenhouse gas beneficial if you convert them into these products versus landfilling. So I'm going to summarize I'm going to move on, talk about the 5 chapters and what our finding and recommendations are, and then how this all relates to MWPA specifically. So let's go to the next slide. So the study itself is 5 chapters. The first chapter, it asks these 2 questions. How much biomass are we generating? over the next 10 years of the categories that you saw previously. Where's it coming from and where does it go? And there's some detailed tables and Sankey diagrams, and you'll see some of this stuff. But basically ask this question: what are we generating? Where does it go? Next slide. So here's what we found. Marin generates basically 250,000 tons a year of biomass materials, and we identified how much of each one of these. Where does it go? 32% of it gets recycled or made into something useful. 68% of it is disposed in landfills or exported out of county to be processed into electricity in the Central Valley. So here's where we are. 32, we use it here, 68%. Next slide, please. Okay, this piece of art is it's the product of Chad. Thank you, Chad. But this one page, I'll decode this for you. I've got my decoder ring on. It's a complicated picture, but it's a simple answer to what we found. On the left-hand side, the Sankey diagram, what you see listed, those are the different raw materials that we're generating. Top green waste, manure, wood chips, logs, construction and demolition wood. That's that left column. And then the middle, the bar in the middle is what process does it go through? So green waste gets composted. We have material that gets converted into shipped. Anyway, the center is the processes that we're currently engaging with is composting, combustion, and mostly landfilling. The gray is basically landfill. The right is what does this stuff get turned into? And so the top green is compost. The next little line is mulch. The next one is landfilling of certain stuff. Some is produced into electricity and other, but most of this material goes to landfill, or there's something called ADC. It's called average daily cover. All of our waste goes into the landfill, and then it has to be covered with something clean to keep the birds and the rats away from it, and that's ADC. So the two bottom gray bars are ADC. So it's complex, but I want to say that this summarizes our study as far as what's happening right now. It shows us what we generate, how it's processed, and what it goes into. So let's go to the next slide, please. Here's another takeaway from that Sankey diagram is that the top 32% of that material, those top, the compost and the other two, local products, local productive use of material. Then below that, the export and disposal, 68% of our material goes out. The red is wood chips that our landfills gather or are gathered by processors. It gets chipped, loaded into a chip truck, and shipped 120 miles to Stockton and beyond to produce renewable electricity. So we're chipping and shipping, and the diesel emissions associated with that are, there's a greenhouse gas analysis that we'll share with you, but the bottom is the rest of that stuff goes to landfills. As Bill said, 1383, we're mandated to reduce landfills. We can do better. So what might we do differently? The next chapter, chapter 2, we took a look at how could we process the biomass. There are about 30 different ways to process biomass, believe it or not, into all pellets, press board, plywood, object of art. I mean, there's dimensional lumber, you name it. But there's about 30 things you can make with biomass, depending upon the raw material. So what we did is we took a look at those and we said, what of those 30 or so processes and products, potential products, could we make with our biomass? So the bottom bullet, how might we process our biomass differently to increase local productive use? That's the next slide. Thank you, Chad. On the left-hand side, if you just look at that left-hand figure, that's the current pathways, which is essentially export and disposal in some local products. The right-hand side is what we have done through our analysis, that there are different products and different pathways that can be generated if we think differently and we'll work together with our partners to do that. So I'm not going to, I'll say that I'll address those in detail, but what we do on the left right now, 32 and 68, on the right, you'll see a substantial reduction in landfilling and a substantial increase in the productive use of our materials. Let's move to the next slide, please. And this is it. We recommend that we increase compost production, that we increase biochar production, and the production of soil amendments. That's the top. The second is that we recommend that we produce, rather than shipping our chips out of county and with the diesel and greenhouse gas emissions, to an old technology out of county plant, that we look at establishing an in-county bioenergy facility and producing local electricity here in Marin County. And again, we still have some disposal, but disposal is substantially reduced. So I want to take questions if there are pressing questions right now, but if you're all feeling comfortable, we'll just continue explaining.
Let's ask Chad to comment on what you just said.
I'm sorry?
We can ask Chad to comment on what you just said.
Yeah, and Chad, at any time, if you see something is missing, you can weigh in. Raise your hand, just speak into the microphone, and maybe Martina, you can help us. So let's go to the next slide, please. Chapter 3. This is a cool chapter, and this is unprecedented what we did here in Marin County. And this is part of my expertise from working with greenhouse gas with the Forest Service and forests and fires and others. But we focused on an extensive analysis of the greenhouse gas emissions of our current wood processing. Everything that we collect, how we process it, and what it produces. We identified what the greenhouse gas footprint is of that existing. And then secondly, one more, Martina. There we go. If we implement the recommendations, this answers the question, how would our greenhouse gas footprint change? And the third, which I think is phenomenal, there's a protocol called Avoided Wildfire Emissions Analysis. It's new, developed by friends of mine, spatial informatics. It asks the question is, how does your wildfire prevention work affect the predicted size of your wildfires, the footprint, the severity of those wildfires? How will it affect it? And presumably we're going to reduce it. I mean, that's what we're attempting to do. And so we asked the question, how does Marin wildfire prevention work affect anticipated greenhouse gas emissions over the next 40 years? So the results are striking. Let's go to the next slide, please. One more. Okay, look at the bottom. Our greenhouse gas, our wildfire work here is predicted to reduce emissions in Marin, anticipated size and severity of fire by 170,000 metric tons. This is a substantial reduction in greenhouse gas footprint. It looks at reduced emissions. It also looks at the condition of the landscape and the ability of the landscape to sequester. So it's basically accumulated growth and reduced greenhouse gas emissions. This is huge. It's there's a protocol that there are actually some entities that are looking to cash in on the greenhouse gas benefits associated with their wildfire prevention work. We would have difficulties for reasons we can talk about later, but there are people that are actually cashing in on the long-term benefits. So let's the next slide. How else? We have 5 recommendations as far as new things, new processing. One for composting, one gasification, compost, one for gasification to electricity. The third is codigestion to electricity. The fourth is copyrolysis to produce biochar. And the fifth is restoring a sawmill that we had here in Marin County. These are the greenhouse gas savings and reductions compared to what we're currently doing for each one of those 5 pathways. As you can see, composting is huge. The gasification of electricity is huge. The little tiny sawmill, not huge, but it's a big deal to process stuff. Totally, so we have 170 total for the wildfire prevention work. This is predicted 31,000 tons reduction per year if we begin to implement these changes. So let's take a look at chapter 4, and we're getting through this. We're not going to go much longer. Next slide, please. Very simply, we did an extensive pro forma economic analysis of each one of these recommended pathways. And both chapter 3 and 4 are quite extensive and well researched and reviewed. But so what's the financial viability of these pathways? What's the return on investment? When's break even? All 5 pathways are economically viable. All 5 pathways would result in profitability after a certain amount of time. And each one in its own all the nuances are there for you to enjoy. But just to let you know, without going into the spreadsheets, the crazy spreadsheets that we have, but so let's go on to chapter 5, which is these are our recommendations. So we have the 5 pathways. I'm going to summarize these. Next slide, please. Our first, as I said, is to expand composting of green materials. There's capacity, generating a lot more material, and we see that composting and application of that compost to the land, to parks, communities, and rangelands, farmlands, that would produce substantial greenhouse gas benefits. That's recommendation number 1. 2, this is instead of chipping and shipping material out to the valley, we recommend that this is codigestion, I'm sorry. This is not, codigestion is currently Marin processes material. They take food scraps and they put it through a processor at Marin Sanitary, their wastewater treatment plant. And they currently process about 33,900 tons each year, and we estimate that you could basically add another triple amount of that to process it. So there are benefits. This would produce renewable energy, and the energy that would be produced, Marin Clean Energy's expressed interest in a power purchase agreement to buy it. Let's go to 3, which I thought was number 2, which is, instead of shipping and chipping our material, with the cost of fuel and greenhouse gas, as I said, recommend 3 is to develop local, modern, current technology biomass gasification plant that would produce renewable energy and biochar, and it would result in substantial greenhouse gas emissions. And Marin Clean Energy, again, has expressed interest in purchasing this electricity if it were to be built. Item 4. This is, Nevada Sanitary has expressed interest in this specifically, but Nevada Sanitary, currently wastewater treatment goes to the sanitation facilities, they process it, and there's a digestate. And what comes out of that, it goes to our landfills, and then it gets covered by our wood. There is technology that could take that digestate, combine it with wood, with biomass, and put it through a copyrolysis system. And this produces heat, and it could produce a usable product, specifically biochar and or other products. But that's our 4th. Nevada Sanitary is interested in experimenting on this and perhaps siting it in the town of Novato on county land. Number 5, please. This is, as Bill stated,
Redevelop the small scale milling.
Hmm?
Oh, okay.
Their logs produce in Marin County. Roadway clearing, PG&E, mom and pop's tree that falls over, trees that are threatening homes. Those trees are harvested and some are cut and chipped, but others are actually loaded and onto trucks and shipped to our facilities, specifically in West Marin. Some of these are large enough to basically be milled and converted into slabs for tabletops, for chairs, for end tables, and other products. And so right now, Marin, we receive those materials, we chip them into little pieces. We take the logs, we chip them into little pieces, and we ship them to the Central Valley for power production. So this recommendation is to reestablish the tiny little sawmill somewhere in Marin, and this is a mill that could take those slabs and take solid carbon and keep it as solid carbon in slabs, et cetera, rather than putting into wood chips and shipping it out and turning it into electricity. This will produce greenhouse gas emission savings and artisanal produce wood products and produce some substantial, little bit of employment. So let's go to next steps and implications for us here, okay? Okay, the next step is we didn't do this in a vacuum. We did it as a team with stakeholders. The steering committee, we had a broader group of stakeholders that watched us and provided us with input and data. And basically, these are the people that own the problem, and these are the people that would be the ones that would move forward, invest, and develop, and create the partnerships necessary to get this stuff done. So our next step is for for the biomass team to conduct a series of workshop roundtables that bring critical stakeholders together and explore their interests, identify what might need to be done, what barriers might need to knock down in order to move forward for each recommended pathway. And here's specific, Mark, Ann, and board. The material that we generate, it could be directed to four of these roundtables. One is the composting. We have a stake in that. Two, we have a stake in producing material that could go gasification to electricity. Three, we could contribute to the copyrolysis roundtable that produced biochar. And fourth, we could, although incrementally, if we do ingress and egress work, if we produce any solid wood, we could direct it to a small sawmill. So here's the bottom line, Mark and Ann. We invite MWPA staff to participate in these upcoming roundtables to determine what makes sense for our vegetation management, our chipper days, and our field breaks, construction work, and our maintenance disposal. Right now, we don't make any decision regarding disposal. We cut it, we leave it certain places, but the chipper days goes where? It goes to wherever they want to take it. So it's an opportunity for us to think personally, where might we want to direct that material? So next slide, please. This is a bit of a duplicate, but it's an opportunity to participate in the roundtable discussions. It's an opportunity for us to direct biomass, possibly, to the new facilities. And I'll just say, having been in this business for a long time, we pay to dispose of our materials, called tipping fees. And some of you know what that is. It's about $45 a ton. But there are facilities that actually buy biomass in receiving it. So we could perhaps convert some of our payment to revenue to deliver. And so this is an opportunity to perhaps change the economics a little bit on the margin. And on the bottom line is to contribute to Marin's greenhouse gas reduction goals. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the steering committee, Bill, myself, some of these people, Bruce, somebody, Brian Jenkins. I mean, we had an amazing team. Jeff Preek is a soil scientist, brilliant. Larry Minikis, if he's here, was instrumental. Chris Carsons was a biochar expert. And around us that supported us, and you can't read it, but there were some really amazing people that were experts and industry players that and advocates from the different organizations and entities. They nudged us, they pushed us, they criticized us. But so they really helped us. And so last slide. Thank you. Questions? I want to thank Belle for all of her work, Chad for your amazing project management, and I can't wait. By the way, we have a meeting at noon today, so another meeting on Thursday. So anyway, this time for questions, and that's what we got.
Thank you so much. I have a question. Is biochar like charcoal?
Yeah, biochar is a it's a reduced. You take the lignocellulosic material, you reduce it, and they're chunks in charcoal. It can be big, and you can granulate it. But yeah, Chad, would you just say thumbs up, or do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think the difference is that biochar is a high carbon material, but it's not used in a combustible way. So charcoal, you might think, is an energy resource, but biochar generally it's not. It could be a source of carbon if you're using it as a feedstock in an industrial process, and it's a really good way to return carbon to soil and help activate biological activity when it's added to soil. Think of it more like activated
Chad, by the way.
carbon. Yeah, like you'd use activated carbon like you'd use to reduce emissions. That's more of what we're talking about.
Thanks for the question. Barbara, you had a question?
So I come from the air world. Also managed a greenhouse gas registry
Yep.
for all the air districts in California. We did a biochar protocol at one point working with Placer County, but APCD. But I guess one of the things that, and I didn't read the whole study, I apologize. I guess I'll do that tonight, but
And the 7 appendices, by the way.
okay,
7
I'm ready.
pages.
But I just wonder some of the things that I think about, and perhaps I'm just a worrywart, is with biomass, there's a lot of NOx. There are other emissions. I mean, we always, as people interested in lowering greenhouse gas emissions, don't always think about the other toxic emissions, and NOx is huge. We're in non-attainment for NOx in the Bay Area. So I'm just wondering, was that a part of the study looking at the emissions? I mean, that was one of the issues, even working with an air district on biochar, to really keep the emissions down. And also working in Southern California, they were going to do a huge biochar facility down in San Diego that I worked with. But that's a huge problem. So how did you address this in the study, the other emissions that can be a huge problem for our air quality?
In chapter 2, we looked at the pluses and minuses associated with each one of the pathways and end products, and recognizing that there's good and bad and great and maybe not so great things. So we did a cursory analysis of all the implications for each one of the pathways. We selected the 5 least, the 5 most favorable, most socially and economically and environmentally beneficial. The analyses that you're talking about are will be the purview of these roundtables to talk about those and how you analyze those. I see CEQA analyses being developed for any prospective siting here. So that is to be addressed from the roundtable, from the stakeholders. If they decide to move forward, they're going to have to conduct these analysis in public purview for complete open disclosure. So we did not analyze those, Barbara.
Well, I would just suggest this for the roundtables, that you consider reaching out to the Bay Area Air District to see if they have an engineer or somebody that's interested in perhaps participating in some of that. Just because that can be something that kills a project.
Oh, absolutely. I'm absolutely aware.
It's not really done through CEQA.
Chad wants to speak. Let Chad.
Oh, I see hand.
Hey, Barbara. Thanks for your question. I'm glad you've got this expertise. We somewhat share it. I'm an air quality engineer myself.
Yep.
Great.
So I'll tell you 2 things. While we don't have specific numbers for specific projects, because some of our ideas at this point are partially designed and the roundtables will take us to complete design. So you're right, some of these questions will need to come out. When we did our greenhouse gas analysis, we used a life cycle framework. So we're looking up and down the supply chain to come up with our analysis and come out with a net positive. So we're looking as broadly as we can. It's, difficult to be completely exhaustive with these things. And then the other thing on the NOx side, while we don't have individual NOx reduction estimates, generally speaking, all of the directions that we're pointing are ways that decrease combustion in power plants, decrease the amount of diesel trucking that's involved. So we suspect, without having completely quantified, there's a net NOx reduction here too.
Okay, well, great to know. It sounds like you guys will be looking at those more detailed issues as you go on. Thank you, all of you.
Thanks for thanks for the hard question.
One thing to this question, which is I didn't sort of get the whole thing, but we were, as you saw, one of our goals is reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, and is yours too. And so we expect to work closely with the county on their efforts, and we contribute our work that we have done will contribute to the overall climate action plan, which shows how greenhouse gases can be reduced in the future. So
Yeah,
we work
and
closely
so
with
I
them, and
totally
we-
get the greenhouse gas connection and I see the huge benefits there, but I always worry about the
Yeah.
others. So I think that's great. So thank you guys for all your hard work. It sounds like you guys really did amazing work.
Thanks, Barbara. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce and Cole. Wonderful report. A lot of hard work went into it, so thank you for doing that, making that effort. Just wondering about Recology, in particular West Marin. They take all their green waste and food waste to Sonoma, and I'm not sure what they do in the bottom.
Recology you're talking about?
Yeah.
They're part of the collaborative.
Okay, so that 32% does represent
Yeah,
the part
I
going.
don't, we haven't had a meeting recently, but the collaborative has been quite an impressive institution, and over 30 people meet, and they looked at every chapter and read it, commented on it, and we responded to it, and also brought it to the attention of the consultants on the project. So, it was integrated.
And I guess
But I'm not, is there anyone in particular?
I'm just wondering
what's
if
the
that
question?
Recology, green waste and food waste that's going to Sonoma was in the 32% for Marin. So I don't know.
Chad, do you see the question?
I do. Thanks for the question. And I will say this is a continuously evolving situation. At the time that we did our initial analysis, that wasn't happening. I was on the phone yesterday with Jason Dow, who's the general manager for Central Marin Sanitation Agency, and we were beginning to do some updated tracing on that material. So that project has begun. The material is going to Petaluma and being processed at a public services facility up there. And I'm going to follow up with them to try to understand where that's going, because some of it I think is going to CMSA now. And part of our goal in the increment of looking at the co-digestion pathway is trying to figure out how we can go after the roughly 60% of what we think is possible in Marin at the time that we did the study. It might be 40% now, and figure out what we can do about that. So your nose is good. Yes, this is happening, and we've got some updates that we're looking for through our roundtables on some of those exact topics.
Terrific. Thank you. And then just lastly, on the milling, I know there's at least one mobile milling operation in West Marin. There may be another. Is that a short-term solution till you get to maybe finding a permanent location? Or could it be
Say again, the mobile
milling of logs? There's at least one operation in West Marin. There may be two that I know of that go to your site and mill those logs. And
this is a question I think to discuss in the roundtable, is to take a look at what is currently in place. There are two mills just on the Marin Sonoma border that can receive material. There's a pellet processing facility in Sonoma that could take material. The material that gets delivered currently to the waste facilities, they don't transport it. They do the quickest, cheapest, So I mean, the question is, it's a good question. Could we somehow inform suppliers to, if you were to drive 8 more miles or 6 more miles or go, east instead of west, that you could possibly, get productive use of your logs. There's just no purposeful design by the raw material suppliers and the sawmills right now. It's all opportunistic, Dana.
Yep.
So we have some investigation to do.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
I was really intrigued by your statement that the wildfire mitigation work that MWPA is doing will reduce greenhouse gas emissions over the next 40 years by 170,000 metric tons. Is that what you said? Yes.
Yes, that's what I said.
Um,
That's what the study says.
Okay.
There's a chapter 3.
I think it would be great to, Mark, maybe do an article. Fire Safe Marin could do an article. Maybe we should do a Marin Voice article, something to exploit that tremendous reduction. That's really important, especially on the eve of our renewal. It's not just reduction in wildfire, it's all these other intangible benefits that Marin Wildfire is providing.
Julie, that's a great suggestion, and I'd be happy to work with. I would be happy to work with Mark on this. I helped to develop the protocol, the analytical protocol, the awe protocol, and know it inside out, what it says, where the numbers come from, and need to say that it's not just us here, but the analysis, it summarizes all of the work being done here in Marin, state parks, county parks and open space, National Park Service. Everyone's work is incorporated into this analysis. So we want to say, thank you to all of those that are currently contributing. And by the way, this assumes that we continue to do the work that we envision, that we complete the work that we envision. If we stop now, it'll be a fraction of that number.
That's a really important fact to mention.
Yep.
And one of the goals that we haven't, there are many things we haven't talked about, but one of them is the regional responsibility of this project to be able to show along the coast of California where the lessons learned from what we've accomplished in this study, the goals that we had, and also the building blocks for a biomass economy. And so we're getting some feelers from other counties, and just thought I'd mention that.
That's for next Thursday's meeting, Bill.
I also want to thank you so much. It's been so interesting, and I'm focusing in on composting. It seems years ago I was the sludge lady of the Bay Area, because it was when EPA made all the treatment plants go to secondary, and they pulled up all the extra sludge. And what are we going to do with this? And mixing our chips with possible sewage sludge, which now has standards for taking out heavy metals and all that stuff, could actually be turned into fertilizer.
Yes.
And could actually become a business if you get the fertilizer industry interested in it.
Yep.
So that's exciting, an exciting part of that.
That is the component of the Novato Sanitary is, they have this sludge that they produce that continually just keeps coming, and to work with combining it with our byproducts and look at what we can turn it into for soil to increase soil productivity.
Just in case you didn't know this, but in Southern California, Kellogg's nitro humus is actually LA poop.
Fact. Thank you. We'll put that on record.
Chad?
Yeah, I want to say thanks for that comment. There are actually multiple experiments going on in Marin already, one of which is taking some of the digestate from the wastewater treatment plants and putting it through a process called thermal hydrolysis that turns it into fertilizer. It's a pilot project, but I agree with you. I think what you're suggesting fits the frame of our study, which is these are valuable materials that we're treating as waste, and we could be treating them as resources and increasingly need to in order to get to some of the low carbon solutions that we need. So just wanted to offer that reinforcement.
Much. Any other comments or questions? This is really very interesting to me, and I'm sure others, and for fitting what we do here with what the potential is just terrific. Thank you so much.
I have one more comment.
Yes,
Um,
Director McMillan.
You know, I commend you. You've spent so much time and effort and intellect, and it might be interesting to, I know you said 5 years of meetings, 250 meetings or 300 meetings, and all those people, all those very valuable, experienced volunteers working on this project. It might be useful to calculate on an hourly basis, how much you and your committee have spent to develop this product and deliver this product, because people don't appreciate, unless you put a dollar amount on it, how much value you have created in doing this.
I
So
think we could do that pretty easily. We do have a record of meetings. Again, we met weekly for 5 years with preceding meetings. That could be cataloged pretty quickly, and then how many people at what rate. It'll be an order of magnitude of the $750,000 that the state invested. It'll be an order of magnitude above the cash value. So, Julie, I think that's a wonderful suggestion.
Well, and maybe that could be included in a Marin Voice piece, not one of you writing it, but an outsider could write it, just commending all your work, giving you recognition that you so deserve for doing all this work, and the results that you're recommending too. I think that would be beneficial.
One of the things that just blows my mind, to tell you the truth, is you open up the study, look at the full study, and you can find it in different places. And if anyone wants, I think, you already had the executive summary. You don't.
Bill, speak in the microphone, please. Bill.
What?
Speak in the microphone.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. What I was going to say is that, what was I going to say? Yeah, if you look at the acknowledgments, just read, there are 4 pages of acknowledgments. And when the time really is expressed by all these groups and different kinds of people and technical studies, and and the appendices. If you just look at that by itself, you will get a good sense of where the time went. But I understand what you're saying, is that we're going to be looking for additional funding for these next steps, and so what we've done and how we've done it will make a difference in our ability to capture additional funding. Chad, have you got something?
Yeah, Chad has his hands up. Chad, please.
Yeah, if you don't mind. Julie, I appreciate the comment. And, if I try to sum up the wisdom and commitment of the people I've gotten the pleasure of working with over the last few years, I'd have to say it was priceless. But we'll see if we can come up with a number that's a little lower than that, lower than infinite. I just wanted to offer a couple of comments in closing too, something that I think might be a little interesting. First of all, I just want to thank Mark and Ann, and increasingly Stephen Peters, for the amount that they've just been willing to show up for this too. Just really, not just their time, but also their attitude about the whole thing has been so great. I look at us all in a situation where we just didn't inherit economy for thinking about what do you do with the biomass from wildfire prevention and from all the other things. So we're looking increasingly at how we can be part of a broader shift to a more renewable economy and get away from some fossil resources, and how to be part of a low carbon community. And on that point, I just wanted to leave you with what I think is kind of an interesting finding. If you look at that 170,000 metric tons of CO2 reduction that's possible, if you model the reduction in wildfire spread and intensity because of fuel treatment work that MWPA is leading, you get that over 40 years. But if you compare it to the amount of reduction we can get for just managing the biomaterials better, it's about 9 times greater, which means that what we do with these materials is just as important as trying to work on the landscape. In fact, even more so. So I just really appreciate the support and helping us build the economy we need to keep going on the things we're doing and deliver the commitment that Measure C asks of all of us, as well as just, build the better world we all need. So just thank you for all of this.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chad. And thank you all. Thanks for the time. I know that this probably went way over, but thanks so much for listening.
Excellent. And I just have one more question, and that is, in your studies and in doing all of this work, have you identified some sources for funding the next step?
I'm sorry, what is the question?
Have you identified who might be interested in funding the continuation and also, some of the individual processes that you're recommending?
It's a work in progress,
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
but Chad, you've been doing it more than the rest of us.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Sorry, Bruce, go ahead.
It's been a topic of discussion. We have talked to
Yeah. So
state officials, program staff that concern themselves with these matters. There's no current answer, but we do have an ask, and for each one of the prospective asks for each one of the pathways, and we're just going to have to see where this goes. I think it'll develop as these pathways develop. Then you can really firm up
but it's also true that
nature of the request.
that the state, that there were 5 pilots in the project that we were in, and each one is looking for moving ahead. So it's of interest at the state level too.
Work in progress.
Well done.
Suggest to you guys, I don't know if you've reached out. I'm sure Chad is familiar with the Strategic Growth Council, which deals with the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund money. I mean, a lot of that got diverted for the train, but it just seems like that might be an opportunity, if not now, in the future.
Interesting. Thank you, Barbara. Yeah.
Yeah, if I can just chime in, I'll say all ideas are welcome. This is a big wagon, and as many people who can get behind us and help push, we'll take it. We've looked at funding through different state programs. There's some inkling that some Prop 4 money might be available for this kind of work.
Sure.
And we're looking for local support of grant funding to help us hold open the space that we have created. But I just want to also say that the goal here is really to get this to be self-sustaining.
Right.
There are opportunities that Bruce alluded to that could lead to cost savings for the wildfire prevention work, or at least hopefully cost neutral solutions that are lower carbon. And we think that part of it is a capital coordination problem that we can, through some of our roundtabling, get people to co-invest together. And so that's part of the goal here too, is to see what combination of private and private capital is already around. It needs to be organized, can help be brought to bear on the solutions here. So my email and my phone are always available. If you have ideas, please, happy to talk.
So, but as to that question, Chapter 4 economic analysis says that all of these pathways are viable without subsidy. I just want to make clear on that. It's the asks, it's a nice push, it's an enticement to a catalyst perhaps, but Chapter 4 says that these are all economically viable. Don't need money. You just make the investment. There's a CapEx and OpEx and return on investment and a break-even point. That's all in Chapter 4.
I'm looking forward to rereading it. So we've had the director's comment. I'm now going to turn it over to public. Is there any member of the public present or online who wishes to make a comment on this presentation?
I see no hands at this time, and just to call for the comment period, if there are any members of the public joining us online who would like to speak regarding the Marin biomass presentation, please raise your hand in the reactions by pressing *9. There are no hands at this time.
I want to thank you again. This has really been terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, now we're going to, seeing no more comments. No motion is required as this is a presentation. And so we'll move on to item 9, Board of Directors Agenda Review. Mark?
I'll be pretty brief. I think the agenda speaks for itself, but there are going to be 3 additions at least that we're going to add. One of them is a major one. I forgot to put in the election for the board president and vice president, so that'll be added. Small detail. Another election that we'll probably just have under consent, and that is to formally elect the town of San Anselmo to be our treasurer. That's the next step that we have to do in that. And then this is what I'm actually quite excited about. In partnership with the grant that Marin Wildfire received from Marin Community Foundation for Ember Ready, FireSafe Marin received a grant to create asynchronous contractor training. So now we have a training program for contractors to take online at their own pace for home hardening type details. And it's part of the Ember Ready program that people that we are going to use for Ember Ready must have gone through this FireSafe Marin training. So Bill Tyler will be present to give you a presentation on that training. Ann and I got a preview of it, and I walked away from it wanting to sign up for the training and take it myself. That's how engaging and interesting it is. So super excited about that. And then we'll likely have just a couple of administrative items added to consent, budget changes and stuff like that. That's it.
So my question is, did you want to put this presentation on?
No, I think what the intent was have it at the exec committee and then encourage the board members to watch the video from the exec committee.
Public presentations, one is enough.
I think how are you going to do that? Are you going to have a line item on the agenda mentioning it and then linking it to the recording, or?
Make it part of my executive officer report.
Okay.
And Mark, perhaps some of the thinking that you and Ann have with your team, perhaps you could have a little discussion as far as the implications and next steps for MWPA. I think that would be valuable to us and our roundtables too. So I would suggest that, please.
I think we covered both items, 9 and 10. Do committee members have any other requests for agenda items? Okay, hearing none, I think we're adjourned, and thank you so much. This was really interesting. Okay, thank you.
I forgot to just remind you that there was no reportable action out of closed session. I don't believe that you made that statement.
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Just wanted to cover our bases. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. You can always use the help. Thanks.